All right, and I think we're live here at Dude, What's the Bid? Episode 16. That's like 4 months worth of episodes now. Live here on LinkedIn. My name is Kevin Hill with Brush Pass Research, and I'm joined, as always, with Casey Larkin from Farelanes. Casey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Crazy busy around here, but yeah, excited for fall.
Yeah, even in August, it's been crazy busy, which is good. Which is good even in August. And we have our special guest here today, Cameron Robertson from 3PL Systems. He's CEO. I can't talk this morning. The CEO over there. How are you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing well, man. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Good. And we'll delve into the conversation. We'll be talking a little bit about difference between RPA, AI, some technology trends, and freight, as well as what the market's doing and how rates look. So let's start it off there with kind of rates and capacity and what's going on, Casey.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Kev, I'm still reeling from the Mets working the Orioles the last 3 nights anyways. Happy to hit on that stuff a little bit later if we want to tee Cameron up first.
Okay. We can do that. And when it comes to the Mets and Orioles, as they say, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. So, Cameron, how are you doing? Let's get a little bit of background about 3PL Systems and yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3PL Systems has been around since 2005. We build transportation management software specializing pretty much anything over the road in North America. So we service Canada, United States, and Mexico. And really our primary focus is LTL, truckload, drayage, rail, intermodal. And so that's really what we focus on. And a lot of what we're doing now is driven by, automation focus. It's really the hot topic in the industry right now. A little bit about me. I've been with the company since 2011, started at a technical support role, worked my way up on the technical side of the company, ultimately becoming CTO and then CEO of the organization. And big driver of that was really rebuilding our entire infrastructure platform from the ground up on newer technologies so that we could actually scale to support clients of certain sizes. Whereas before 2015, we were unable to really support any clients that are over $100 million in freight spend. So with the new technologies we built, it allowed us to actually support these clients that are quite large and scale with them, per se. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Cool. I guess personal question, you're based out of Southern California, what, Orange County, did you say?
Yeah, based out of Orange County, yeah.
Okay.
Office is in Tustin, here in Southern California. We used to be in Long Beach, closer to the ports, but after COVID, we got rid of that office, became a remote company, and me and our director of sales are those individuals that don't like working remote. So we actually got another office in Tustin, and we're in the office every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, being in Long Beach, you're just right there, kind of at the epicenter of global trade in the U.S. with the ports not maybe down the block. I don't know where your office was, but maybe right on the waterfront. Who knows?
No, we were a little inland, but it was a nice area. Seeing all this shipping, it's quite amazing because before entering this industry, I had probably no real respect for the industry because I didn't know anything about it. And then when you actually get to know this industry, it's just incredible how big and vast transportation is and how complex it is moving product around the world. And I think a lot of people just take that for granted, what these individuals are doing to get these products on their shelves so they can buy them, or ordering things from Amazon, or really any of that, to be honest. It's incredible.
It is incredible. Go ahead, Casey. Sorry.
I was just curious, what industry did you, start your development and engineering in? How'd you find your way to lovely world of transportation and logistics?
Yeah, so I actually started when I was quite young. I was about 13, 14 years old. And it was more before going into any industry, just due to older brothers being involved in technology, kind of watching them, and then just got interested in it and started working towards it. And this is actually my very first career job was 3PL systems. And so this is where I've grown up, is at this company.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And it reminds me, we were talking about logistics and how complex it is, and just how ingrained it is. So full confession, I have a bachelor's degree in archaeology, so a little bit of a history buff.
How did you land here?
I know, right? How did I land here? Which is strange because if you look at human history and civilization, human migration patterns, why people go anywhere, and it's always for trade. Trade lanes, trade routes. You think logistics is it's just logistics, but it's a driver of history. It's a driver of how we are sitting here, all remote from different parts of the U.S. talking together. It's all about trade and economics and development, diffusion of ideas. Those types of things. And it's on a super scale now, it seems like, with globalization. But the world's always trended toward that narrative.
Yeah, it's quite incredible.
It is. It is. So it's cool. So yeah, logistics is it's just an interesting puzzle piece to put together, and the software that you guys build is kind of the ERP of the certainly the freight brokerage world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it definitely is the heart and blood of most freight brokers. Their TMS, whoever it may be. It's hard for you to run a freight brokerage without one these days. So
it is. So you started in 2005, right?
No, I started in 2011.
2011. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So I started I became a freight broker in 2012, right? So it was interesting that TMSs were the use of a TMS relatively new, right? Probably not, 10 years before that, 2001, 2002, it would have been something that only a few freight brokerages had, I would think, right? A true TMS, say in the early 2000s.
Yeah, our founders are actually, they owned a freight brokerage when they founded the company, and they were looking for technology in the industry that was user-friendly, easy to use, and they couldn't find anything. And so they actually set out to build software. And originally the idea from, what I understand and what I was told, they weren't actually planning to build a tech company. It was just for their freight brokerage. And they ended up building something that worked so well, they decided, hey, we need to take this to market and sell it to other freight brokers. And that's actually how this company was founded in 2005. And so it's changed drastically over the years, especially over the last 5-6 years after we rebuilt the platform. But it was founded out of a need of freight brokers originally.
Yeah. And you flash forward now, and it'd be hard to imagine running a freight brokerage of any size whatsoever without a TMS.
Yeah.
Even if you're moving 5 or 10 loads a day, it'd be hard to keep track of that without some way to execute it.
Yeah, I mean, we come across freight brokers that are still running in, Excel or things like that, and it's quite amazing to us when we do come across them, because it's like, let me get this straight: you're logging into 10 different carriers' websites, you're trying to pull rates on 10 different carriers' websites, get a quote, and that's taking you how much time? Every single load that you're trying to move. So it's just not scalable without a TMS these days, and especially with all the automation, almost every tool now that's a leader in our industry, everyone's pretty much focused on automation at this point, so that you can scale your business without having to increase the amount of FTEs you have involved in the company. So, yeah.
Right. And you mentioned that the impetus for starting 3PL Systems back in 2005 was the founders ran their own freight brokerage.
Yeah.
And I know, reading a lot of Kevin's research, it's like the build versus buy. A lot of brokers build their own TMSs. seems like that happens when they get to a certain size, right? Where they have to, and the off the shelf things maybe aren't working for them. How have you guys kind of pivoted? What were the points in that freight brokerage back in 05 that made those guys say, okay, yeah, we need this tech, and then figure out a way to evangelize it? What are the hurdles that people hit at different sizes of growth?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and we have pretty much solved for that question. So what we ended up doing is that when a brokerage hits anywhere between $60 to $100 million in freight spend, they have their own needs to run their companies, and they can't rely on a SaaS company to control their destiny. And companies like ours, like other TMSs in the industry, they have their own roadmaps that they're following, and those roadmaps don't always follow the needs of these larger freight brokers. They may need a custom customer portal, for example, that meets the needs of a shipper that they're doing business with that ships $20 million a year with them. Or they may need some enhancements that only make sense for their business. And so what we ended up doing is we support either. So we have our primary product is Brokerware, and you can license it through a lease and use it month to month. But for the larger freight brokers, we also have an option where they're able to buy a copy of the source code. And it's just a license, a perpetual license that they get to use internally. They can't resell, they can't compete with us or anything like that. But what that allows them to do is take this foundation that we designed and built that costs millions of dollars to build TMS. It gives them a head start of multiple years, and they can build upon that. So rather than having to start fresh from the very bottom and deal with all the hurdles that we dealt with in building TMS, they get a head start on that. They can reskin it. They can design it any way they want. They can add enhancements to it. And so really what that's allowed us to do is to service both sides of the TMS market. The side of the TMS market that is a much larger freight broker, and then the average size freight broker, which could be anywhere between 20 and 50 million. And so it's worked quite well for us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I found in my research. That 60 to 100 million is right in line when people start thinking about building their own TMS, right, to meet their specific needs. And I think, and from my conversations, is that while it's often investigative, it is, I won't say rarely, but, the vast majority do not choose to go that route once they start really getting into the weeds of how difficult it is, how expensive it is to build your own, right? And how expensive it is in the long term to maintain and keep it updated and to innovate off of that. Because, as you said, it takes millions of dollars to write the source code itself. And it becomes dated. A lot of those features, at least, become that you add on, become dated very quickly. They need to be updated.
They do.
It is like running a technology company within a brokerage.
Yeah, one of the things that you just said, becoming dated, it's one of the reasons we're very selective on, partners, and meaning we're trying to partner with people who are trying to be forefront of their lane, if that makes sense, like, the highways of the world or DAT and others. But we don't want to build everything. We want to partner with companies that are investing in their products and growing their products. And so we integrate with them to handle their lane. And it allows us to focus on our lane on the TMS side. And one of the things that we are kind of hell-bent on as a company and organization, due to the version 1 of our software and what happened there, is making sure we're up to date, latest technology, latest code constantly. So we're updating our frameworks all the time. We're making sure that we're integrated with new APIs from carriers when they release them, so on and so forth, because we never want to be caught in the trap of, hey, we built it, now let's reduce our R&D spend and let this run for 5 years. And then 5 years from now, we're in trouble because now we have all this what's called tech debt that we have to catch up on. So yeah, we're very, very driven to stay up to date on the technology side. And if anyone goes to build a TMS, the experience that you mentioned, you need to hire a CTO or CIO that actually has development experience to actually run that team. If you only have a business background, I would not recommend just setting out, hey, I'm going to build a TMS, I'm going to manage the engineering team and all that, because that will become very difficult to do.
It will. Well, I like the term tech debt. Tech debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On them
I
skateboards.
appreciate it. Oh, so let's see. So well, let's talk a little bit about automation, right, and define it, because we were talking before we went live. People were running it all around, talking about automation, AI, and all the buzzwords, right? And I find it very difficult to keep up with all the terminology and what people mean by the terminology. So let's define automation, and then the sub definitions of that. What it consists of. We're talking about RPA and AI and probably machine learning and natural language models and all of those things.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different forms of automation. And one thing I just, as a engineer background, that I want to kind of make clear is that a lot of companies misuse the term AI, especially, 5-6 years ago when the industry started grabbing a hold of AI and then just starting throwing it out there and saying, hey, it's AI, it's AI, it's AI. Not all of it's AI. A lot of this stuff is just RPA is what it's called, robotic processing automation. And the powerful thing about starting with RPA is really most of the things that we do day to day have a defined rule set that we can follow to get it done. And if it has a defined rule set that we can follow, you can deploy what's called robotic processing automation to solve for that, which is a much cheaper way of automating things inside of technology, or really anything you use day to day. Is you can use RPA to do that. And we as an organization focus on that heavily because a majority of what is done inside of a TMS can be done with RPA without having to use the real AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or these other ones that are in the marketplace. The major difference, RPA is built on a set of rules that it's going to follow in order to automate something. And AI is more freeform in layman's terms, that it's going to actually learn from what it's actually taking in. So it simulates human intelligence when it's processing the data, and it learns from it, and then it gets smarter and smarter over time. But great AI is very expensive to build. It's not a cheap technology. And that's why you see companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook really building the models that everyone's kind of building on top of in order to build their AI, because it's just so expensive to design and engineer. So you look at ChatGPT, they're spending billions of dollars to build AI. You look at Meta, they're spending billions of dollars. The same, Microsoft investing back into GPT. It's very, very expensive.
And for a lot of tasks, is it really needed?
No.
Do you really need it, right?
No, majority of tasks do not need AI. For a long time, there was a lot of things that it would be overkill if you're applying AI to it. Like creating, moving freight through a TMS. You don't need AI to do that. You can have RPA tools that do that. You can even have EDI that does it, which has been around forever. You could have APIs do it for you, just talking to API endpoints with carriers, which none of that is AI. That's just things that are readily available to us.
Yeah, it seems like RPA is for processes that have very clear defined rules, right?
Yeah,
set out the rules and it follows it every time. There's very few exceptions to those rules, where AI should be used when there really isn't any defined rules for something. It kind of has to create it as it goes. Is that a fair kind of?
Yeah, it's learning as it goes, and then it's building what are called data models around that using ML, which is machine learning, in order to react to the data it's looking at. To give you an example of something we've done internally, We built a tool called ShipMind. ShipMind is a full RPA tool that automates the shipping lifecycle. And where it works really well is in LTL, which is probably the easiest form of freight to automate. And with ShipMind, which we launched a few years ago, we have done over 600,000 LTL shipments through our system that were fully automated, meaning no one's touched them. They were just fully done by the system, created, tracked, dispatched, all the way to delivered, invoice, sending those invoices out to the client, where a human is not actually touching it. And one more data point, one of our clients actually let us know they ran 1,600 shipments on a Saturday by themselves because they had to get caught up on something, utilizing that tool. So utilizing RPA. And so it's a very powerful thing when it's applied correctly.
It is. And I can see how LTL is an easier way to apply it because you have fewer carriers. You have everything's a little bit more. Certainly, it's more standardized than full truckload, which has very little standardization.
We have seen it done with FTL, but the FTL piece is being done with clients that own their own assets, which makes it a little bit different. So it's not really a fair game at that point. It's called automation.
True.
Because they own the whole stack.
Yeah. And you're talking about true brokerage where you're using full truckload assets that are not your own, right? You're going out to the open market. The market's so fragmented, and so there's very little standardization to that process, right?
Yeah,
it's a little bit more open and freewheeling and free dealing. Don't you think so, Casey?
Yes. Sorry, I'm getting texts over here. People enjoying the show. That's
okay, Casey?
Right? Fully automated freight. Like I think you mentioned earlier, Cameron, trying to figure out how to grow the brokerage without increasing your overhead, right?
Yeah.
Maintaining those margins. It seems like that's kind of a solution that people are really looking for, right? I mean, the ability to move 1,600 loads in a weekend with nobody behind in the chair is pretty astonishing. So it's very cool stuff, right? I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense for everybody, anybody who's a 3PL trying to grow to figure out ways to, generate that incremental revenue, right? I can't imagine how much that added in revenue or profits for that LTL company, but it's a pretty productive Saturday, in my book, anyways.
Yeah, no, it's definitely powerful when it's applied. The biggest thing though, when it comes to this technology is a lot of freight brokerages that have been in the industry for a super long time. A lot of them are scared of change or scared of letting these tools run and automate. But one of the things you have to take into consideration is that these tools are built in a way that they're going to catch themselves when something goes wrong, right? So they're going to tell you if something goes wrong with the automation so that you can actually go in and focus on the things that are exceptions, not the mundane tasks that are being done by the system. So really, one thing, a rule of thumb I have, if you're manually dispatching any of your loads or manually having to rate LTL shipments today to figure things out, I feel like you're doing something wrong in today's world, because all of this data is just readily accessible. There are tools to automate all of it. You should be focused on the things that are exceptions so you can actually focus on scaling. And that's really just my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's the correct opinion, right? In the LTL world, you shouldn't be looking up, trying to quote things. Everything should just be automated by now. In your system. In 5 years, what tasks do you think will just be totally automated? It'll be accepted. You said most freight brokers, I put it at 99.9% are scared to have automation running in the background. Maybe that's down to 99.5% now.
We're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, we're heading in the right direction. Exactly. What do you think is just going to be automated and is just going to be accepted? Kind of like what I don't know, put out visibility is today rather than 10 years ago, or something else. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head.
What's going to be automated, meaning from?
Yeah, if you had to, if you, it's a forecast or a prediction, right? What do you
I
think
see.
in a freight brokerage? It's just going to be automated. Everyone's going to be automating it. No one's going to question it whatsoever. It's just going to be the status quo in the industry that's done manually right now.
Well, I think almost every piece of a shipment life cycle can be automated, in my opinion. I think we're heading in the right direction with shipment creation. One of the things that a lot of companies are trying to do right now is build technologies that can read emails or read documents and then create shipments out of it. It's a lot easier when you have documents because you can design something that can easily read the elements of the document. They're always in the right place, and you can create a shipment out of it. So that's not very difficult to do. The thing that's a little bit more difficult is the email portion of that. There are a lot of companies that do email reading and create shipments out of it, but it's not 100% accurate all the time. I think over time, we're going to see a much larger accuracy with tools like that are, really deploying AI and actually figuring out, what's in this email. Let's create a load out of it. Let's identify what needs to be looked at, which, again, companies doing it now, but it's just going to get better and better. Yeah. And there are more tools out there. So when carriers or companies don't have what are, APIs to integrate with, to pull data, to track, to dispatch, to rate, there are some companies that are actually going out and pulling data using web scrapers or bots that will go out and rate these shipments on different sites or even create shipments. So to give you a real world example, we created a tool for one of our clients that reaches out to their shipper site where they post all of their loads, and it automatically pulls those loads directly into the TMS as soon as they're available so that they don't have to go out and manually do that. So they don't have to pull up two screens. Here's the shipper platform, here's the TMS platform, and now I have to type in all the data from one screen to the other. You're going to see a lot more of that, streamlining their workflows so that they, again, are focused on things that are really ROI generating rather than those like just data entry positions. Ultimately, I think most, if not all, data entry positions are going to go away, especially where we're headed with tech.
I agree with that, and hopefully that is true. Hopefully, because I remember being a broker and having to transcribe, putting all the information I get from it, through email communication, right?
Yeah.
And putting that into building a load. And how many times that people get that wrong is inaccurate. It's the last thing you want to do, so it's the last thing you do. And with humans in general and data entry, there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of really disengagement in the work because it's boring, mundane work with high turnover, and something to get out of the habit of having data entry.
Right. Like, sounds like it's not the most, wasn't the most exciting thing in your day, right, Kev? Like, not the thing that you're going to do the best work on, the thing you enjoy doing most. Human error, right, it has got to be extraordinary in a lot of these cases, right? I'm sure a lot of
you're trying to transcribe data, the phone's ringing off the hook. You've got this issue that you can't put out of your mind because there's a fire raging somewhere, and you sloppily do it.
Yeah, we see a lot of that on the data side. It's almost always human error that's driving a data issue. So eliminating that altogether is how we get to a position or a place where it's 100% accurate. The computers do exactly what you tell them to do, right? And so when you apply that into technology, you're able to eliminate a majority of those errors. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think syncing up, making a lot of the transference of data from one program to another um, will be cleaner, and it'll just be something that's done in the background, and everyone's very comfortable with it and loves it. And talk about the dinosaur days of whenever you had to do that. I remember dinosaur days. I walked in with a fax machine. Um, calling up insurance agents. Hopefully they weren't at lunch because they always took 3-hour lunches to get a certificate of insurance on a load that needed to be picked up in an hour. So, and those days are mostly gone now too. Hopefully they are.
We still have a fax button in the TMS, but I do want to remove it. I don't like that button.
Oh, no, right? You mentioned this. Go ahead, Casey.
It has seemed to be an industry that is averse to adoption of digitization or of tech. It's interesting to think about. And, how many of your clients right now are hopping on like full force with the automation initiative, jumping in, with both feet? Are you seeing some trepidation from the market?
Yeah, there is.
Seems like the more that you have great data in your TMS, probably the more insights you could pull out of it, the more actionable insights you can find about your business, about how to do things better in the future. What is the main reason? Why do people want to keep their information in their brains or disparately in different management systems?
It's a really good question. So I would say roughly about 15 to 25% of our client base is looking at automation or applying automation in some way or form today inside of the TMS. There's still a lot of clients that are scared of automation. And I don't think this only applies to 3PL systems. I think this applies to the whole marketplace. And the primary driver of that is a lack of understanding, in my opinion. I hear some ideas when I talk to some individuals or companies that, the automation, it's going to create errors and it's going to cost me money and all of that. But in reality, the amount of errors that the automation is going to create for you, it might create some losses for you. But instead, you're going to pay $50,000 to $100,000 per employee to do all this work for you instead. And so the errors that occur, say they add up to $15,000, $20,000 a year, it's still going to be a better ROI to apply automation with inside of your company than it is to hire a bunch of FTEs that are going to do that same work for you inside of your TMS or really any system that you're utilizing day to day. So there's still, I think, a lack of understanding on how automation works with inside of freight and how it will benefit you. But I do think that people are starting to educate themselves a lot more in platforms like TIA and Carrier Summit and these other conventions out there. They're doing a really good job at educating the market as well. And so I think ultimately over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see it drastically increase the automation side, especially with the younger generations coming in. That's what they want to do. They want to apply automation to their workflows. They don't want to do all the manual work. And that applies what Bill Gates said a long time ago. The best engineer is a lazy engineer. And the reason for that is because the lazy engineer is actually going to figure out a way to automate their job or make themselves more efficient so they can do the same amount of work in a less amount of time. And so it's the same kind of concept when it comes to freight brokerage or, again, really any company. Automation is definitely going to help a lot of these freight brokers become a lot more efficient and have higher profits ultimately when they start adopting these technologies.
You're exactly right. The lazy engineer. It's all about lazy, trying to automate everything. One of the things I like about automation, the more I get into it, is you're talking about errors, right? let's say there's it's not as efficient, which I don't necessarily believe, right? But for far less the cost. But whenever there are errors or mistakes with humans, it takes a long time to figure out what went wrong because there's really
Yeah.
no record of it. With automation, there's a record of it. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy to find where the mistake is happening and to go in and fix it. Right? I mean, that's one of the things I like about it is like I know what I can go look at the transcript or the record and see what went wrong and how to remedy that situation. Where with humans, it's kind of difficult sometimes, and it's maybe not a uniform error. Maybe it's 100 different errors, and it's hard to track down and correct.
Yeah, to give you an example of how the automation piece in our system works is when something goes wrong, it falls into what's called a failed queue, depending on the status of the shipment. And that failed queue, you can click into it and it has the exact issue, what went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you, was it a rating problem? Was it a dispatching problem? Could it not connect to a server? We make it very clear so that when something does go wrong, it's very easy for the human to interact with it and know exactly where to look. Whereas, when a human gets involved with something, say it's on a Tuesday, they mess something up with the dispatch, then you have to go dig for it. Say they're out on Wednesday, you have to go dig for it, what went wrong, and figure all that out. Where with automation, it's automatically auditing everything. It's automatically storing the audit logs directly on the shipment and telling you the exact things that went wrong without, within the shipment lifecycle. So, yeah, it's definitely automation is very efficient.
Yes.
When it comes to things, yeah.
It is. Very efficient. It's very easy to figure out what's broken in the chain.
Yeah.
Which is very important. I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but it's very important to be able to quickly remedy a situation.
Yeah.
For sure. What do you think, Cameron, what do you think these roles become within these brokerages that are currently focused on data entry, the more operational stuff? If automation can, take those tasks off of those FTEs plates, where do you see those FTEs, or where do these brokers see those FTEs being able to spend their time within those brokerages to, take advantage of the automation and try to grow a little bit more quickly? Do you see it as, the broker can truly start to just focus on the customer and less on the fulfillment and carrier side of things? Or what do you think that really looks like from a organizational behavior perspective?
Sure. So two things that I've seen done with our clients. So one is definitely a higher focus on their customers. It frees up their time rather than staring at data and trying to enter data. It gives them time to spend and build real relationships with their customers. Separately, automation requires human interaction still. What I mean by that is that when something goes wrong, it still requires that operations person to get involved. And so it's just changing their role. It's like when computers were invented, or even the internet. When the internet became this huge fad, they thought it was going to die out. Really, the internet is an amazing tool, just like automation. It's an amazing tool that's going to enhance your workflow day in and day out. And it's going to allow you to focus on the things that truly matter. Business is built on relationships. And so if you're able to spend more time with your customers and focusing on getting to know them, not just, hey, what freight do you have for me today? Find out about their families, find out about who they are, what makes them tick, all those types of things, and be able to service them at the same exact level you were servicing them before, but with a real relationship behind it. And that's going to drive not only growth for you, but it's also going to drive this client to stick with you long term, rather than it's the transactional model where, hey, move this freight for me. I don't really care who you are, and I'm going to get paid for moving the freight for that individual. So, yeah.
We were talking with Omar Singh last week, who kind of a cautionary tale along those lines, was mentioning, they grew very, very quickly at Surge, continue to onboard more and more customers. And the kind of the lesson from last week's episode was, read page 28. of the agreement with the customer, which is where you'll find the fine print about detention accessorials or whatever it may be that can be the difference between operating profitably or not, right? So are there any like quality controls or any things in place that you guys or people are looking for to make sure that they are continuing to service the customers that they do have while trying to go acquire new ones as well?
There are a lot of tools just built into our TMS natively that will help them do just that. Monitor the client, help monitor their workflows. We also built something that's kind of interesting. It's called staff efficiency reporting. But what it does is it actually tracks the user's interactions with the application. And so you can see exactly what your client's doing inside the system. So what that essentially does is it allows you to look into the system. Hey, I could probably reach out to this client because of the way they're doing stuff today. I can actually improve how they're doing it. But one of the things you'd mentioned though is the agreement between a shipper and the broker. Those types of things, really, right now, we don't have a really great way to manage those outside of building rule sets inside of the customer that's going to prevent you from breaking those rules, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can design rule sets around your agreement that will prevent you from, moving freight over a certain maximum or minimum, things like that. So, but there's no AI right now that's reading those agreements that's going to tell you that you're doing something wrong. Do I see that coming in the future? Absolutely. It makes sense. And some of these tariffs, for example, with these carriers are super long, right? And AI, this is a good use of AI, is you can use AI to read those for you and create tariffs out of those, like inside of a system, create a tariff out of the physical document the carrier gives you with all the rules built in without ever having to lift a finger. And so I think we're going to see more of that coming in the future, but yeah.
Yeah. I think there is some legislation going on right now, somewhat along those lines.
Yeah, I think the theme of the conversation too with automation and productivity is taking tasks and people, taking them from non-revenue producing activities
Oh yeah.
to revenue producing activities. And I think that's the main theme of it all, right? I mean, you want to build those better relationships. You want to have the time to do that. And the best way to do that is taking your salespeople, whether they're carrier sales or shipper sales, taking them out of the data entry quagmire, the repetitive tasks that we all used to have to do and still do today to a large extent, and positioning that time and resources over to growing your business. And hopefully growing your business and reading page 28 while you're doing it, right? I mean, that's one of the big things, when you're fast growing. What Omar was talking about is like quality and service kind of the bar gets lowered if you just keep onboarding new customers and not taking the time to deliver the same amount of quality and the same time it takes to develop those relationships and move freight within those guidelines.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Scaling very quickly can be a very negative thing for the company. And it's one of the things that we always talk about internally is that we don't have any funding behind us. We're a naturally, organically grown TMS platform that's, running green and successful. But we do it responsibly and we grow responsibly. We're not looking for those boomerang numbers. Let's onboard as many clients as we can. And 80% of them are going to be unhappy. So it's all about servicing the client at the end of the day.
It is.
And especially in today's market, this year has been difficult for all companies, not just TMS, but for all freight brokers, anyone in this industry, it's been difficult. So
Change from costs. Let's be profitable as we scale.
Yeah.
mentioned briefly, and I wanted to hit on this topic because it is important in the freight world, on integrations, right? And the TMS's role in integrations and kind of partnering. That is, how important is that to the brokers now? Has that kind of
Partnering.
evolved?
You're talking about all the tech partners?
Yeah,
in the
tech
industry?
partners. Yeah.
It's extremely important. One of the things, if I were in the shoes of a freight broker today, knowing what I know about the technology side, I wouldn't deploy any system inside of my organization that is not integrated with all of the companies I need to use, whether that be a factoring company, a audit company for carriers like highway or load boards, or insurance certificates, whatever it may be.
Rating, pricing.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
It's extremely important. Partnerships are extremely important. The best TMSs, I think, in the industry are the ones that partner with best in class. And not every TMS does that. Some TMSs want to try to build all of their technologies. And what happens in the long run when they keep doing that is certain parts of their TMS are going to start crumbling over time. Rather than partnering with someone who's really, really good at exactly what you're trying to build, and let them focus on that piece so you can focus on all the other pieces that you need to handle as a TMS. So yeah, partnering is top of the list for us. It's actually in our core values as an organization. So
I talk to a lot of tech companies, new startups out there that are getting on their feet, getting beta users, sometimes getting money from clients, but just starting out. What's the best practice of integrating with TMSs like Brokerware?
Yeah, best practice is finding a use case. So there are a lot of startups in the industry that come to us almost every week, it seems, and want to partner. But the problem is that as a TMS provider, we're not sitting around waiting to integrate and write code to pull in data from an outside source or push data to a startup, if that makes sense. We want to be able to build things that are going to service our current client base. So it's actually very, very rare that will integrate with anything unless they have clients that utilize our TMS, because we want to build things that our clients want. We don't want to just do something because what we call IT cool. And that's actually a term that a client of ours told us a long time ago, and I was almost offended by it. But it was IT cool is more of like, oh, that's a really cool idea. I really love it. I want to integrate with it, or I want to build that. But in the real world, no one's going to actually use it, or none of the clients are going to actually deploy that within their business. And so we're just very careful with how we approach that side of our business.
Always give startups the advice: you have to get customers on your own, right?
Yes,
you have 100%. To have a book of business. Have a book of business, and you'll get the integrations. If you don't have a book of business, then it becomes difficult for anything, right? Because of what you just laid out right there.
For sure. It makes me wonder if there's a way around integrations. It seems like integrations is something that super duper hot in the space. And I know integrations take a long time, right? Pulling data, getting things to the top of the tech teams, engineering teams, priority list. They're probably working on 10 or 15 other integrations as well at the time.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Our development, if we were to take our backlog of development of things that we want to do, our clients want to do, it's probably 2-3 years long. And we invest millions every year into R&D, and we're never not building. So it's a lot. Yeah.
Right. Walking that line between, hey, customer, you may not know that you want this, but I think you do probably want this. So we're working on it in the basement, for that time when you're ready for this tech, if that makes any sense.
Well, as soon as you go to a TMS company, right, you're going to be put in queue, right, in the queue, right, of all the projects that you have ongoing and in the works. And, just like showing up at a deli, at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. You got to take your ticket number and you have to stand in line, and it doesn't happen overnight. And the best way to maybe get cut in line or put yourself in a position to get everything a little bit more quickly is to have that TMS as customers, call that TMS, which means that you have to have customers and put a little pressure on everybody involved to quicken the process. But I think that's probably the best way to do it. Maybe not from your seat, having a little bit of pressure, but certainly from their seat, it's the best way to
I agree.
expedite the process.
I agree with that. That's exactly how it plays out too. Exactly how you described it is how it plays out.
So if you're coming out with an idea, you don't have any customers, and you're just like, oh, we have to integrate with TMSs before we can get customers. It's just like, well, that's not really a great plan, because it's not really workable.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is build an MVP product as quickly as you can and see how the market views the product, see if there's any real adoption. If you're getting no adoption on it, it might be time to hang it up, even though it was a cool idea. But yeah, no, that's exactly right, Kevin. What you said is put pressure with the clients. Clients are going to put pressure on the TMS, and ultimately that's going to drive an integration. So, yeah.
It's just the workflow of it.
Yeah.
It's the one that makes sense.
The standard in the industry.
Yeah. So what's what's your 5-year goals, Cameron?
5-year goals as a company.
Or you can do 2 years or 1 year. You can pick whatever time frame you want.
Let's talk 2 years. Let's talk 2 years.
Generic interview question I just asked, but I am interested in where you guys are going, and
yeah. So we are building a new product which is unannounced to the market right now. It's not a replacement to our TMS. It's actually a separate product, complete separate product. Which we're going to be announcing next year. So can't really go too much into that. So the goal is to have a completely separate team that's running that product, separate from the TMS platform that we're building now. But it's really just a product that's going to integrate seamlessly into the TMS, and it's going to solve a need that a majority of our clients need solved. But it's going to be available to other freight brokers that don't use our TMS, because not all TMSs are created equal, and we understand that, meaning we might not be the best fit for every broker out there. And I know that is the truth. And so with the other product, we're building separate so they can integrate to other TMSs and they can operate, separately. But that's really the goal right now, is to successfully launch that product and announce it next year. Separate from that, we are heavily focused on the automation piece. ShipMine was a big success for the clients that deploy it within our organization. So we are doing research on other modes of transportation, especially like parcel. That's an easy one to fully automate. And so we are bringing that into the interface, but just a much higher focus on automation as a whole to make people more efficient. So.
Automation is the name of the game in the roaring 2020s.
But I promise you will not hear me say AI unless it's really AI.
Is it generative?
Are you guys planning on moving into the AI, more AI tools within the next 5 years? Once the use cases come in and you need to go beyond your normal automation, right? Once those become developed enough to, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
To answer your question in short, yes, we are looking at AI, and there are certain areas of the platform that could utilize AI in a great way. So we are looking at that. We're deciding the approach we're going to take with it. But again, in the meantime, a majority of tasks are done quite easily with RPA, and it's more affordable for our clients, more affordable for us to deploy. So wherever we can deploy that, that's what we're going to do. But there are some scenarios where we are ultimately going to deploy AI to solve for the inefficiencies in those areas. So, yeah.
I think that's kind of a game being played. Not that, but a game being played across all industries. You see it in freight too. Is taking RPA, calling it AI, and charging a premium on it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, you know.
I can't do that.
And it's not exclusive to freight. I think everyone.
No, it's not.
Around AI is basically doing that.
I do think transportation is behind in technology due to compared to some other industries.
Oh,
but that's exactly right, Casey. That's a big driver of it. It's not a very. It's becoming a lot more collaborative, our industry, but previously it was very, everyone was separate from one another and everyone's fighting one another to get the business. So, it's definitely changing.
How about cybersecurity, right? Because we talk about fraud a lot, but we usually talk about fraud with trading partners and, carriers and brokers and kind of what I call external fraud. But internal fraud or crime and being hacked and exploited, whether it's ransomware or whatever. How serious of a threat is that in freight?
It's a threat to everyone. It's not just freight. So I'm a real believer. If it can be built, it can be broken. And what I mean by that is any security system you build, it can be the best in the world. Ultimately, it can be cracked. If it's anywhere online, if it's touching the internet, it can be cracked by someone. The problem is that you don't want to put it out there that, hey, we can't be hacked. You don't want to say that, because if you post that to the internet, you just challenge a whole group of hackers to come hack you. But it is a serious threat, and it happens quite often. So without telling the marketplace everything we do, because I don't want to do that, some of the stuff that we do is take offline backups. So of our clients' data, meaning all the time we're taking offline backups. If our servers were hit, cracked through the Microsoft security that's in place, along with some other stuff that we do, then we have a way of spinning everyone back online quite quickly and without data loss and without ransomware, encrypting everything. Because that's basically what ransomware does, is they get into your data, they encrypt all of your data, and then there's a key that they can give you to unlock your data. And what's really scary about that are these people that are doing it. They don't actually care about giving your data back, meaning they don't care about really doing any of this. The only thing they care about is the money side of it. So if you pay them, they're going to give you the key, they're going to unlock your data, and they're not going to bother you, that group. But it is a serious threat. And most companies, I would say, over 95% do not have the money just sitting around if they do get hit by ransomware to pay that ransomware attack. And it can bankrupt companies. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where someone gets nailed and it shuts them down because they just can't afford it. And so it's a serious threat. It's something that all companies should take very, very seriously. And if you're signing up with a TMS, if you're signing up with software that is running your business, you should absolutely ask that company, what are you doing to protect me from these cyber attacks? And make sure it's in writing. Make sure that you have something from these companies that are hosting your data in writing that states what they're doing to protect you. They may not give you everything they're doing to protect you, because it wouldn't be smart to put that out there. Every single piece of security that you're using, but it is a major threat. And we've seen it happen to Fortune 100 companies. We've seen, even recently, everyone's social security number, your name, birth date, everything was hacked. Every single person in the U.S. So people can get it.
that they can. And it's another check mark. Once you hit that $60 to $100 million mark, whether you buy or build, it's yet another checkbox of criteria that you really have to look at, and because that's, as you'll tell us, it's not cheap to to secure your system.
Yeah, it's not. If you're properly deploying technologies to protect your data, it's not a cheap thing to do. And it was, the other thing that happened, a month ago or so, the CrowdStrike outage. That was that was bad, and it had nothing to do with companies. I saw companies out there posting, "Oh yeah, we have elite security practices. We didn't go down." It's like, no, that had nothing to do with it. CrowdStrike is the platinum security that you could have on servers. It's one of the best out there. They're kind of in their own league. But that outage, what was sad about that is that people were not getting surgeries done. People literally were dying because of that outage. And it's a very serious thing that hospitals and everything else has to take into consideration. What's your backup plan? Not just if something goes wrong, like CrowdStrike's update being published, but if we do get hacked, if ransomware does attack us, what is our backup plan? What are we going to do for that week, 2 weeks, or going forward from there? You should have all of that kind of written out for your business. So,
yeah.
Remember that.
And then the
ransomware. It's just reminding me of SDs getting hacked probably, I don't know, a year and a half
that was
ago.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, but I think they stood their ground, right? And
yeah.
I don't know what the end result was, but sounds like they were able to battle off the pirates.
Yeah, no, it's they did, and they're back up and running, and they had a ton of support from the marketplace. They're a great company. SD's been around for a long time, so they had a lot of support through it. But it was sad to see in the marketplace. It's always sad to see any company get hit by that because it's just so damaging.
It is. It is. It is a massive confusion. I've never worked at a place that got hacked, but we covered a few at FreightWaves when I was there. And and then all the rules are going to change once I finish building the quantum computer that I've started working on in my basement. And then
quantum computer.
Yes.
Kevin's secret degree was in quantum physics.
Yes.
Kevin Ant-Man hell.
Cameron, it's been great chatting with you today.
Yeah, you guys as well. I appreciate you guys, and thank you for having me on.
If you want to learn more about 3PL systems and brokerware, where does our audience go?
Yeah, you can find us at 3plsystems.com, or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or our company page on LinkedIn, or reach out to us via email, sales@3plsystems. We'd love to talk.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Appreciate you.
So Casey,
Okay.
you got some rates here.
I do.
Rates.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is this the bull swing we've been looking for?
It's a pattern. It is a pattern.
For sure. I saw something. Kyle Taylor, former colleague, confirming this morning the containers coming in are definitely bullish, right? I mean, towards the end of July here, we're seeing a really low 212. His 260 is from Tuesday. So that's 8/20/2024. Got the rail strike, a couple of other things. I don't know if, you'd call it a black swan or.
You need volatility. You need kind of things to happen that mess with the status quo for freight rates to move, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, you have the containers coming in, you have rail strikes, I don't know if there's a hurricane coming in too, but you need some things like that to get the market to move sometimes.
Right, yeah.
And
things together could be.
Yeah, Kyle's covering it. Henry Byers, if you don't follow Henry Byers on LinkedIn, go follow him. Because he's been
on here at some point.
Oh, we do, yeah, we do. We might do that in the next couple of weeks, to get his take on things, because he is he's the ocean smart man. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's looking like we see a pulse.
for sure. For sure. But only way out is through. You
It
can see
is.
the rates rebounding a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see that. We'll keep track of it. Talk a little bit about more next week. Maybe we see another weekly pattern of a higher highs, higher lows. That's how the market moves, right?
That is. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Be in
Well, cool.
Florida next week, Kev.
Will you? For
Yeah.
good?
For
Or
good.
just in Florida? Wow.
Yes, sir.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about offline here. Any parting thoughts besides moving to Florida?
The only way out is through. Keep trucking, baby. Q4 is just around the corner. Peak season. We can do it. We're almost there.
Almost there. Almost there. Almost there. I'm ready to get back to upper market. I definitely am. So with that, we'll see you next week. And until then, go out and make some margin. Make some money, make some margin, make some sales. Have a good August.
Love it.
Adios.
Peace.